There's a bench. Yes. I can't believe this. This video contains minor spoilers. So I played the original Hollow Knight about 5 years ago, and I just got finished with Silksong a few days ago. So to be honest, I don't remember a lot from the original Hollow Knight, but what I don't remember is it being as hard as this game. And I think it's clear the reason why Team Cherry decided to make this game a little bit harder, because it's kind of like a DLC in a way to Hollow Knight, or a direct sequel, but they expect people who played this game to have probably played the original Hollow Knight, although it's not required. It's its own separate game. So the first thing I like to talk about is people will complain about the diagonal slash that Hornet has at the beginning of the game. So it's a very slight spoiler, but you do not have to use that diagonal attack for most of the game. You unlock different crests, which unlock different move sets. So it's not as prominent of an issue as people probably first thought it was going to be. If you'd call it an issue, I thought it was cool. I was actually slightly disappointed when I realized, oh, I can just have a more easier to use fundamental downward slash. I thought the diagonal attack was kind of interesting. It's just weird to me because a lot of people online are talking like it's like the most difficult, complicated mechanic in the ever to be put in a video game. But I don't know. I think it's a good mechanic to have because it's a consistent thing that you'll get better at. And I think the difficulty of it is overblown to begin with. But if you're going to have a game be more difficult, I think it should be with a mechanic like that. Now, I think I'm going to go from what I agree with the most, which would be the downward diagonal slash. I think that's good difficulty, to now slightly not as good difficulty, is how binding works in this game. I think it certainly makes it harder, only being able to bind 3 masks at a time with the full duration of it, because if I'm remembering correctly, it has been 5 years, so forgive me if I'm not. The binding time in this game is basically the binding time of 3 binds in the original Hollow Knight, although the original Hollow Knight you'd only restore 1 mask. And for anyone who hasn't played the game, binding is like when you sit there for a second to heal and how long it takes. It basically restricts it and makes it less diverse, which makes it more difficult, and is certainly an interesting thing to just change things up. For a sequel, if it was a base game, I'd be quite, well, it is its own base game, but if it wasn't meant to be a sequel and kind of expected you to have played the first game, I would dislike this more, how the binding works. But as expecting you to play the first game, I'll accept it as like, it makes it more difficult. I just think it makes it more, obviously having less health or having it more difficult to restore health consistently or safely is going to make the game harder. So that's another thing that people discuss. Don't seem like less people seem bothered about that than the downward diagonal slash, but I think that's more intrusive way to make the game more difficult than the diagonal downward slash, is just like a different method of attacking. What I will commend the team for is the way they have it set up is that you have to be paying attention at all times. If you're fighting a boss and you're not paying attention, you die in 3 hits. If you're not paying attention and you get hit by a normal enemy, you die in 3 hits. Now, I feel like maybe they could have made bosses do more damage than the normal enemies so that they feel a little bit more impactful and boss-like, but I'm not entirely sure. I think it's good the way it is. Now, I don't think anything I've talked about so far is actually a huge issue with the game. It's just the game is a little bit harder. I think that's okay. I've been tired of playing games where, like Pikmin 4, for example, that it just like it's too easy, it's a cakewalk. So I think a game that actually has this is how difficult the game is. You're actually gonna have to think and use your brain is a good thing. And where I think this game actually makes a mistake, or at least what I feel like is a mistake, or at least I wish I could talk to the developers and actually understand the design logic behind these couple of decisions, is some of the cheap deaths that they have planted in the game, and some of the weird stuff they have where you have to purchase benches / purchase to even enter at least a store, but it's near the beginning of the game, so it's kind of when you're low on resources. I feel like these mechanics on a first time playthrough came across as a little bit unfair, just because like you think you have established rules and then it breaks a rule once or twice just because for the fun of it. And you know, any subsequent playthrough you'll know about it. Maybe they did it as a way to like, you know, encourage players to talk to each other, because they'll be like, oh my god, at this boss they did this and I died at it, ha ha ha. And it does make a funny, cool moment, a story to tell. I'm even telling them right now. The one of the bosses, I'm not gonna say the name, although it might even be in the video at some point. But one of the bosses, when you finish off the boss, it doesn't fully finish off, and it's not entirely clear that it's gonna like not be finished and potentially kill you and make you redo the whole boss. And if that happens to you, it's like you've already figured out the boss and its pattern, so you just have to like redo it. So it's like I'm complaining, and it's not even a big complaint because you should already know how to beat the boss and it's not a big deal. But at the same time, it's like it's wasting 5 to 10 more minutes of my time when I already beat the boss. I don't know. So like a death like that is cheap, or there's a bench in the game that you sit on it and everything's booby trapped and around that area, so that bench just booby trap kills you, but there's not really a good clear way to see the booby trap. And then there's a way to break that, just like there's a way to break the lock in the door, so you don't have to keep buying it. So there's like workarounds to these cheap, weird mechanics that. So obviously they knew people would like dislike it, and they made a workaround for somebody so inclined to like fish for one. But I don't know, those mechanics specifically make the game, to me, made it feel cheap and unfair. And I could definitely see it turning away like new players. Although it is a pretty hard game, so if you got that far, I guess you probably already made it through the difficulty part. So you're probably not gonna hit these cheap moments until you've kind of proven that you're actually like good enough to play this game, I guess. So you would have already been turned off by the difficulty. And I think they felt comfortable doing this just because they knew that this game had like such anticipation that they're just trying to troll people. That's how I feel about it anyway. And at the end of the day, if you're aware of a lot of these things, they are able to be played around. It's just on a first time playthrough, certain things, it wasn't really enough information wasn't given to play around properly. I feel like the bench, or like one of the bosses self-destructing at the end. But I actually do like where Silksong's difficulty is at. I feel like this discussion is just prompted by videos I'm watching, seeing people complain about the difficulty, and seeing my own chat say that they put 19 or 16 hours in the game and are still only on Greymore. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I don't know if I'm just used to playing games / playing 2D games. I do play Super Smash Brothers, so I don't know if that just is what you need to do to be good at this game. That's all I really have to say about Silksong right now. I enjoyed the game. I haven't gotten any post-game content yet, nor do I know how to even go about doing that, to be honest. But let me know what you guys think, what you're thinking of the game, if you guys think it's too difficult, too easy, any other thoughts you have about the game. Let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you can. I would appreciate it very much. Have a good day, everybody.